But first, for heaven's sake, sack Chris Bowen while there's still a hope of saving Australia. It's Labor's great global warming scheme. It's a disaster, and even Labor now can't deny it. It's planned to destroy an electricity system that has worked with wind and solar that won't, came to a screaming halt today, at least in New South Wales, where the government there signed a desperate deal to keep open the giant Eraring coal-fired plant for 2 more years when it was due to be scrapped next year. And the reason is simple. There's simply not enough green electricity to replace it.
It going out in 2025 is a major shock. It leads to reliability risks, which means potential blackouts, and it also would lead to a spike in prices.
Now, the deal that New South Wales government has come to with the power plant operators, it's not that important. Just know it's an underwriting deal that's probably going to cost taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. But the big point here is that wherever you now look, Labor's global warming obsession is destroying our reliable electricity supply and now also supplies of gas. And the days are coming when, if you try to, put on the lights or turn on the heating, there'll be nothing. Now, we're shutting down the country, or Labor is, because of the most destructive public policy in our lifetimes. And the worst is that Labor is still refusing to grab hold of the one thing, or at least one of the things, that could still save us from some of the terrible consequences of its religious obsession, and that is nuclear power. Let's go back. It's now 17 years since Labor, under Kevin Rudd, decided to make global warming, climate change its new moral crusade.
Climate change is the great moral challenge of our generation.
And since then, Labor's global warming policies, and also the Liberal policies, because quite often because they were too scared to say no, helped to destroy 1/3 of our power stations, leaving us so short of electricity that the Australian Energy Market Operator warned of potential blackouts next summer in New South Wales and Victoria. Now, Victoria went even further. It even banned gas exploration on land for a decade. It still bans fracking. And we've just found out it has been sitting on warnings that it could run out of gas in 2 years. I mean, this is just insane. In fact, with electricity, AEMO, Australian Energy Market Operator, is now paying some manufacturers big money to actually shut down when electricity supplies are tight. Can you believe that? So you've got to ask yourself, which manufacturer needing a lot of electricity or gas or whatever is going to invest in this country? Opposition Leader Peter Dutton today was right.
Businesses won't remain in our country if there's a disruption to their power supply. There's 90% of the 24/7 baseload power that goes out of the system by 2034, and without gas and the ability to firm up with baseload power, we are going to have disruption and increased prices.
Now, it's not as if you're not seeing what's at stake. Already business failures in Australia have tripled over the past 2 years. Now, New South Wales Labor is seeing all this unfolding under its own watch now, which explains today's deal to keep its biggest coal-fired power station going for 2 years or even 4.
The latest analysis from the Energy Market Operator says that we have reliability gaps coming to us from 2025 to 2027. We have to keep the lights on and prices down.
So this iceberg that the whole country is steering into is now so obvious that even Chris Bowen, the global warming extremist who's our federal energy and climate change minister, had to cheer New South Wales.
The Eraring Power Station should be open not a day longer than it should be and closed not a day earlier than it should. I think the New South Wales government has done a good job in negotiating that, ensuring that you have that energy in the system as we make that transition is, I think, appropriate.
So we're facing a real crisis, right? The green energy is simply not coming online like was promised. It just isn't, and it's costing a bomb more. But Chris Bowen still will not pull back. In fact, he's doubling down. He and Prime Minister Anthony Albanese are now spending billions and billions of your dollars on more harebrained green schemes, praying that they'll find one that will save us. Green hydrogen, proved at scale nowhere in the world. It's spending billions on that, hoping for this miracle green fuel to actually happen. There's another $1 billion to build solar panels here that's shared with the Queensland government, when there's already a glut of these panels in the world, thanks to China. And today, another crazy scheme, $500 million to persuade businesses to build batteries here as a backup for wind and solar plants. Build them in Australia.
It's a matter of supporting, in the initial stages, industries to grow. We haven't backed our own industries and our own people.
But here's the government splashing your money on batteries, in its vain attempt to find something, picking winners, when even its own Treasury Department says it doesn't make sense to invest in batteries when you can buy them much cheaper overseas. We're never going to compete. But the industry minister today reckons, well, these normal laws of economics don't apply to this government.
Both Treasury and the Productivity Commission have said Australia doesn't have the capacity to build a sustainable battery manufacturing industry. What's your response to their critique?
Well, a lot of it is orthodox thinking about just relying on our comparative advantage. And whenever anyone says that to you, it's about just maintaining the old dig and ship mentality.
It's like a government denying the existence of gravity. This is going to go horribly wrong. But the worst of it all is that this government still refuses to look at the one zero emissions technology we know does works already in 32 countries, and will provide electricity around the clock, 24/7. And that, of course, is nuclear power. And I ask you to try to explain this. Of the world's 20 largest economies, right, advanced economies, Australia is the only one that doesn't use nuclear power or doesn't want to, in fact, bans it. Australia. How does that work? We've got crippling prices, power prices. We've got shortages. The whole green energy project falling apart. With your electricity and your gas to your home no longer guaranteed in some parts. Here is a Labor government saying, well, despite all that, nuclear power must still be banned. Save Australia, sack Chris Bowen.